The stars looked different today. Captain Jake Sullivan stared out from the bridge of his ship, the New Liberty, watching the empty space beyond Earth's moon. His hands gripped the metal rail as he waited for something he knew would change everything. 3 days ago, Earth's deep space sensors had picked up something massive moving toward their solar system. The readings were so large that most people thought the machines were broken. But Jake knew better. He had seen the reports from other worlds, other species that had tried to fight back against what was coming. The Draconian Empire had found Earth. Jake was 42 years old and had spent half his life in space. He remembered when humans first built ships that could travel faster than light. Back then, everyone was excited about meeting other species among the stars. They thought it would be like the old movies, with friendly aliens wanting to trade and learn from each other. They were wrong. The first contact had happened near Jupiter 5 years ago. A single Draconian scout ship had appeared, scanned the human colony there, and left without saying a word. Within days, every government on Earth received the same message. The Draconians would return. Earth had 1 year to prepare for conquest or surrender. Most people had laughed. One alien ship against all of humanity seemed like a joke. But Jake had studied the reports from the Galactic Council, the group of alien species that tried to keep peace in the galaxy. The Draconians had conquered over 300 worlds in the last 1,000 years. They had never lost a single battle. Now they were here. The first sign was a ripple in space itself. Jake's science officer, a young woman named Lisa Park, looked up from her screens with wide eyes. She was fresh out of the academy, barely 25, but she was the smartest person Jake had ever met. "Captain," Lisa said, her voice shaking slightly. "Something big is coming out of faster-than-light travel. Really big." Jake nodded. He had been expecting this. "How big, Lisa?" "Sir, the readings show over 300 ships. Each one is bigger than our largest space station." The bridge went quiet. Jake's crew of 12 people all turned to look at him. They were good people, all volunteers who knew they might not survive the day. His weapons officer, Ben Rogers, was a former Marine who had never backed down from a fight. His pilot, Amy Foster, could fly through an asteroid field blindfolded. His communications officer, Ryan Clark, could talk to anyone in the galaxy. But none of that mattered now. The space in front of them began to change. Points of light appeared, growing larger and brighter. Then the first Draconian ship came into view, and Jake felt his heart sink. It was huge. The ship looked like a mountain floating in space, covered in weapons and armor. Its dark metal surface seemed to eat the light from nearby stars. Jake had seen pictures, but seeing it in person was different. It made him feel small and helpless. Then, more ships appeared, and more. Within minutes, Jake could see dozens of the massive warships hanging in space like sleeping giants. His sensors told him there were hundreds more spreading out across the solar system. "Sir," Ryan said from his station, "we're getting a message." "Put it on screen," Jake ordered. The main display flickered and then showed the face of something that definitely was not human. The Draconian admiral had red eyes that glowed like fire and scales that looked like black armor. When it spoke, its voice was deep and cold. "Humans of Earth," the alien said, "I am Admiral Koroth of the Draconian Empire. Your world has been chosen for conquest. You have 1 hour to surrender completely. Lower your shields, power down your weapons, and prepare for occupation. Resist, and we will destroy your planet and everyone on it." The message ended, leaving Jake's bridge in silence. "Sir," Lisa whispered, "what do we do?" Jake looked around at his crew. Earth's entire space navy consisted of 50 ships, most of them converted mining vessels and cargo haulers. The New Liberty was one of only 12 actual warships. and it was tiny compared to even the smallest Draconian vessel. Any sane person would surrender. The smart thing to do was save as many human lives as possible. Jake had a wife and 2 kids. Back on Earth, he wanted to see them again, but something inside him refused to give up. "Ryan," Jake said quietly, "open a channel to the Draconian fleet." "Sir, are you sure?" "Do it." Ryan's fingers moved over his controls. A moment later, he nodded. "Channel open, sir." Jake stood up and faced the main screen. He knew that Admiral Koroth and probably half the galaxy were watching. His next words would either save humanity or doom them all. "This is Captain Jake Sullivan of the Earthship New Liberty," he said, his voice steady and clear. "This is our home. We were born here, we grew up here, and our families live here. You are not welcome. Leave now or face the consequences." The channel closed. Around the bridge, his crew stared at him like he had lost his mind. Dot in the distance, the Draconian fleet began to move, their weapons powering up like angry red eyes in the darkness. The war for Earth was about to begin. Admiral Koroth could not believe what he had just heard. In his 1,000 years of life, no species had ever dared to speak to the Draconian Empire like that. The human captain's words echoed in his mind as he stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dark Conquest. "Admiral," his weapons officer hissed, "shall we destroy them now?" Koroth looked at the small human ships floating in space ahead of them. There were only 12 of them, tiny dots compared to his massive fleet. He had conquered. Worlds with better defenses using just one ship. This would not even be a real battle. "No," Koroth said slowly. "First, we teach them what happens to those who refuse the Empire. Target the human mining station on their moon called Europa. Charge the planet Cracker." The planet Cracker was the Draconian Empire's most feared weapon. It could destroy entire worlds with a single shot. Koroth had used it to wipe out 50 planets that had dared to resist. The humans would watch their station disappear, and then they would beg for mercy. The weapon began to charge, drawing power from the ship's massive engines. Energy built up in the forward cannon, glowing brighter and brighter until it looked like a captured star. But something strange was happening with the human ship's captain. Jake Sullivan watched his sensors as the Draconian flagship began to power up its main weapon. Lisa Park had identified it from the energy readings. A planet cracker designed to destroy entire worlds. "They're targeting Europa Station," Lisa reported. 2,000 people work there. Jake felt a cold anger build in his chest. The Draconians were going to murder innocent people just to make a point. He opened a channel to all human ships in the area. "This is Sullivan to all vessels. Form up on me. We're going to stop that weapon." "Sir," Ben Rogers said from his weapons station, "our shields can't handle that kind of power. It will vaporize us." "Maybe," Jake said, "but we're going to try anyway." The 12 human ships moved into formation, spreading out in a line between the Draconian fleet and Europa Station. Jake's ship took the center position with Amy Foster's ship, the Earthrise, to his right, and Ryan Clark's ship, the Defiant Dawn, to his left. Across the galaxy, other species watched through long-range sensors. The Galactic Council had been monitoring the situation, expecting to witness another Draconian victory. Instead, they saw something they had never seen before. The tiny human fleet was not running away. They were moving toward the massive alien. "Ships, this is madness," whispered the Altarian observer. "They cannot possibly survive." Admiral Koroth watched the human ships approach and laughed. "Foolish mammals. Fire the planet Cracker. Destroy them all." The weapon fired. A beam of pure destruction lanced across space, bright enough to blind anyone looking directly at it. The energy contained in that single shot could have melted a continent. But something impossible happened. The human ships did not try to dodge the beam. Instead, they flew directly into it. Their shields glowed as the deadly energy struck them. But instead of being destroyed, the ships seemed to absorb the power. Jake felt his ship shake as the planet cracker beam hit them. The energy readings on his screens went crazy, showing power levels that should have turned his ship into vapor. But the New Liberty held together. "Lisa," he called out, "what's happening to our shields?" Lisa stared at her instruments with amazement. "Sir, our shields aren't just blocking the energy. They're absorbing it and storing it somehow." "I don't understand how, but we're actually getting stronger." The same thing was happening to all 12 human ships. The Draconian superweapon, designed to destroy planets, was being absorbed by vessels that were tiny by comparison. When the beam finally stopped, Europa Station was still there. The human fleet was still there. And Admiral Koroth was staring at his instruments in disbelief. "Impossible," he hissed. "Fire again, all weapons. Destroy them now." The Draconian fleet opened fire. 300 warships unleashed enough firepower to sterilize a dozen worlds. Lasers, missiles, plasma cannons, and particle beams filled the space between the two fleets. Jake watched the wall of destruction coming toward them and made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. "All ships," he said calmly, "defensive pattern Alpha. Redirect all incoming fire." The human ships moved with a precision that seemed impossible. Each vessel took position at exactly the right place and time, creating a complex pattern that looked like a dance among the stars. As the Draconian weapons fire reached them, something amazing happened. The human ships did not just absorb the energy like before. They caught it, held it for a moment, and then sent it back. But the energy that came back was different. It was stronger, more focused, and it was aimed directly at the ships that had fired it. Admiral Koroth watched in horror as his own weapons turned against him. 50 of his warships exploded in the first few seconds, destroyed by their own firepower that had somehow been amplified and redirected. "How are they doing this?" he roared at his science officer. "I don't know, Admiral. Our sensors show impossible energy readings. The humans are somehow manipulating the fundamental forces of space itself." The battle continued, but it was not really a battle anymore. Every time the Draconians fired their weapons, the humans sent the energy back stronger than before. Ships that had never lost a fight in 1,000 years were being destroyed by their own guns. Captain Jake Sullivan stood on his bridge, watching the impossible scene unfold around him. He did not fully understand what was happening either, but he could feel something changing inside him. It was like waking up from a long sleep and remembering something important that he had forgotten. "Lisa." Park looked up from her station with wonder in her eyes. "Captain, I'm detecting something strange. It's like our ships are connected to something bigger. I can sense the other human vessels, and it feels like we're all part of the same thing." Jake nodded. He could feel it too. All 12 ships were moving together, like parts of a single organism. They knew where the Draconian weapons would fire before the aliens pulled their triggers. They could predict every move the enemy would make. Amy Foster's voice came over the communication system. "Jake, something's happening to my ship. It feels like I could be in more than one place at the same time." Ryan Clark reported the same thing. "Sir, I think I can see multiple versions of this battle happening. In some of them, we lose. In others, we win, but I can choose which one becomes real." Admiral Koroth realized that his mighty fleet was losing. Ships that had conquered hundreds of worlds were being defeated by 12 small human vessels. It was impossible, but it was happening. In desperation, he ordered a full retreat. But when his ships tried to jump to faster-than-light speed, nothing happened. They were trapped in the human solar system by forces beyond their understanding. 1. I won. The Draconian ships began to disappear. Not destroyed, not damaged, but gone as if they had never existed at all. The last thing Admiral Koroth saw was Captain Jake Sullivan's face on his screen, looking sad rather than triumphant. I'm sorry, the human said quietly, but you chose this path. And everything went dark. The news spread across the galaxy, faster than light itself. On Altair Prime, the ancient council members sat in stunned silence as they watched the recordings of the battle. On Zentari, the warrior clans gathered around their screens, unable to believe what they were seeing. The Draconian Empire, the most feared military force in known space, had simply vanished near a small blue planet called Earth. President Elena Martinez stood in the emergency meeting room deep beneath the Capitol building on Earth. She was 55 years old and had led humanity through 5 years of preparation. For this day, she had expected to be planning humanity's surrender or their final desperate fight for survival. Instead, she was trying to understand how 12 small ships had made 300 massive warships disappear. Tell me again what happened out there, she said to Captain Jake Sullivan, who had just returned from Space. Jake sat at the conference table with Lisa Park, Amy Foster, Ben Rogers, and Ryan Clark. They all looked tired but strangely peaceful, like people who had just woken up from a confusing dream. Ma'am, Jake said slowly, I'm not sure I can explain it. When the Draconians fired their weapons at us, something inside me knew what to do. It was like remembering something I had forgotten. A long time ago. Dr. Kevin Walsh, Earth's top scientist, leaned forward. He was a thin man with gray hair who had spent his whole life studying physics. Captain, according to our sensors, your ships did things that should be impossible. You absorbed energy that could destroy planets. You redirected weapons fire with perfect accuracy. And at the end, you made 300 ships vanish without using any weapons we know about. Amy Foster spoke up. Sir, it didn't feel like we were using weapons at all. It felt like we were just showing the Draconians a different way things could be. What do you mean? Elena asked. Amy looked at her hands, trying to find the right words. It's hard to explain. When I was out there, I could see many different versions of the battle happening at the same time. In some of them, the Draconians destroyed Earth. In others, we fought them for years. But there was one version where they never attacked us at all, where they were peaceful explorers instead of conquerors. And you chose that version? Dr. Walsh asked, his eyes wide. We all did, Ryan Clark said. It felt like the right thing to do. Instead of destroying them, we gave them a chance to be better. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. Are you saying the Draconian fleet is still alive? Yes, Jake said. There. Just somewhere else now. Somewhere they can learn to be peaceful instead of always fighting. 3 days later, the Galactic Council called an emergency meeting. Representatives from dozens of species gathered on the neutral station called Harmony Point. Elena Martinez found herself sitting at a table surrounded by aliens, all of them staring at her with mixtures of fear, curiosity, and anger. The council leader was an ancient being called Resonance Prime, a creature made of living crystal who had existed for over 10,000 years. When it spoke, its voice sounded like music. Ambassador Martinez, Resonance Prime said, the galaxy demands answers. How did your species make the Draconian fleet disappear? Elena looked around the room at the assembled aliens. She recognized some of them from the files she had studied. The Altarians, who had mastered faster-than-light travel when humans were still using stone tools. The Zentari, whose warriors had fought the Draconians for centuries and lost dozens of worlds. The Collective, a hive mind that controlled hundreds of planets. All of them were more advanced than humanity. All of them had technologies that humans could barely understand. And all of them had been helpless against the Draconians. We defended ourselves, Elena said simply. The Centauri war chief, a massive being covered in battle scars, slammed his fist on the table. Impossible. My people have fought the Draconians for 300 years. We have lost billions of warriors to their fleets. You expect us to believe that 12 primitive ships succeeded where our entire civilization has failed? I don't expect you to believe anything, Elena replied. I'm just telling you what happened. An Altarian elder, so old that his skin had turned transparent, leaned forward. We have studied the energy readings from your battle. The forces your ships manipulated should not exist according to any known physics. What technology did you use? No technology, Elena said. Our people just remembered something they had forgotten. Remembered what? Resonance Prime asked. Elena took a deep breath. She had hoped to avoid this conversation, but she could see that the galaxy would not let the matter rest. We remembered that we are not alone, she said. Not just in the galaxy, but in reality itself. Your species have all advanced by building better tools, better weapons, better ships. Humans went a different way. The room fell silent. Elena could feel the weight of dozens of alien eyes watching her. What do you mean? The collective asked, its voice speaking through 100 mouths at once. I mean that humans exist in more than one place at the same time, Elena said. What you call impossible, we call normal. We just forgot how to use it when we started, building machines instead of trusting ourselves. Dr. Kevin Walsh stepped forward. He had been quiet during most of the meeting, but now he activated a holographic display that showed readings from the battle. The energy signatures we recorded don't match anything in your databases, he said to the assembled aliens. But they do match theoretical predictions for interdimensional manipulation. Our ships weren't just in this reality during the battle. They were connected to versions of themselves across multiple realities. The Centauri war chief laughed harshly. Impossible. If such power existed, we would have discovered it long ago. Would you? Elena asked. Your species evolved to build better weapons. The Altarians focused on faster ships. The collective created better communication. Every species in this room advanced by creating technology that enhanced what you could already do. She stood up and walked to the center of the room. Humans advanced by learning to do things we shouldn't be able to do at all. We didn't build machines to travel between dimensions. We learned to exist in multiple dimensions naturally. We didn't create weapons that could redirect energy. We developed the ability to change reality itself. The room erupted in voices as different species argued with each other and demanded proof. Elena waited for them to quiet down. You want proof? She asked. Fine, but you might not like what you learn. She gestured to Dr. Walsh, who activated another display. This one showed a star map of the local galaxy with hundreds of colored dots representing different species and their territories. This is what you think the galaxy looks like, Elena said. But it's not complete. The display changed, showing the same map, but the thousands of additional dots scattered throughout. These are the human colonies, Elena said quietly. The silence in the room was absolute. Impossible, whispered the Altarian elder. We would have detected them. Not if we didn't want you to, Elena replied. Humans have been traveling between stars for over 50,000 years. We've been watching the galaxy develop, learning about each species, protecting younger civilizations from threats they couldn't handle. Protecting us? The Centauri war chief roared. We need no protection from mammals. Really? Elena asked. Then why are the Draconians gone? Why did they disappear just when they were about to conquer another world? Do you think it was a coincidence that they attacked the one species in the galaxy that could stop them? The truth hit the assembled aliens like a physical blow. Elena could see understanding dawn in their alien eyes. You let them exist, Resonance. Prime said slowly. You allowed the Draconian Empire to conquer hundreds of worlds when you could have stopped them at any time. Elena nodded sadly. The galaxy needed a common enemy, something to unite the different species against. The Draconians served that purpose for 1,000 years. But now the galaxy is ready to move beyond the need for war. So you made them disappear. The collective said. We gave them a chance to become something better, Elena corrected. Just like we're giving all of you. The meeting continued for hours, but Elena knew that everything had changed. The galaxy had demanded answers, and now they had them. The question was what they would do with the truth. The weeks following Elena Martinez's revelation were chaotic throughout the galaxy. On some worlds, people celebrated the end of the Draconian threat. On others, fear and anger spread like wildfire. The idea that humans had been secretly watching and protecting the galaxy for thousands of years was too much for many species to accept. Captain Jake Sullivan stood on the observation deck of the orbital station above Earth, watching ships from dozens of different worlds arrive in the solar system. Some came as friends, eager to learn more about humanity's abilities. Others came as potential enemies, demanding proof of Elena's claims. It's getting crowded out there, Lisa Park said, joining him at the window. She had been promoted to commander after the battle, and now served as Jake's science officer on the station. Yeah, Jake agreed. I count ships from at least 30 different species. Some of them don't get along with each other very well. Are you worried they might start fighting? Jake shook his head. Not here. They can feel it too, even if they don't understand what it is. This system is protected by something bigger than any weapon they could bring. What Jake didn't say was that he was still learning to understand his own abilities. Ever since the battle with the Draconians, he had been able to sense things that should have been impossible. He could feel the emotional states of the alien crews on their ships. He could predict which vessels were carrying peaceful explorers and which ones held potential troublemakers. Most strange of all, he sometimes caught glimpses of other versions of himself, living different lives. In some realities, he was still a simple cargo ship captain. In others, he commanded vast fleets of human vessels that openly patrolled the galaxy. The boundaries between these different versions of reality seemed to be getting thinner. Dr. Kevin Walsh entered the observation room, carrying a tablet full of data. He looked tired but excited, like a man who had been working without sleep for days. Jake, you need to see this, he said. We've been analyzing the energy readings from ships in the system, and we're detecting some very interesting patterns. What kind of patterns? Lisa asked. Kevin activated his tablet, showing a complex display of swirling colors and mathematical formulas. Every alien ship out there is generating a small interdimensional field, just like our ships did during the battle. They don't know they're doing it, but their presence near Earth is awakening abilities they didn't know they had. Jake studied the display. Is that good or bad? I don't know yet, Kevin admitted, but I think it explains why some of the alien delegations are acting strangely. They're starting to remember things they had forgotten, just like we did. Meanwhile, in the council chambers deep within the station, Elena Martinez was meeting with representatives from the Galactic Council. The discussions had been going on for 3 days, and tensions were running high. Resonance Prime, the ancient crystal being, pulsed with colors that indicated deep confusion. Ambassador Martinez, we have brought our best scientists and historians to examine your claims. What they have found disturbs us greatly. What have they found? Elena asked. The Altarian elder, who had been silent for most of the meeting, finally spoke. His voice was shaky with age and emotion. We have reviewed our oldest records, documents that date back 20,000 years. There are gaps in our history that we never noticed before, periods where our civilization should have been destroyed by natural disasters or enemy attacks, but somehow survived with no explanation. The same thing appears in our war records, added the Centauri chief. Battles we should have lost, enemies that mysteriously retreated, plagues that stopped spreading for no apparent reason. Our military historians always attributed these events to luck or the wisdom of our ancestors. Elena nodded. But now you're starting to suspect there was another explanation. You're claiming that humans have been secretly protecting us for millennia, the collective said through its multiple voices. But if this is true, why reveal yourselves now? Because the galaxy is ready, Elena replied. For thousands of years, the different species have been growing stronger, learning to work together, developing the wisdom needed to handle greater responsibilities. The Draconian threat was the final test. Test? The Centauri chief's scales bristled with anger. Billions of my people died fighting the Draconians. You call their deaths a test? Elena's expression grew sad. Every death in this galaxy matters. To us. But sometimes growth requires sacrifice. The Draconians served a purpose by giving the galaxy a common enemy to unite against. Without that threat, your species might have spent the next 1,000 years fighting each other instead of learning to cooperate. So you played God with our lives, Resonance Prime accused. No, Elena said firmly. We played Guardian. There's a difference. A God controls everything. A Guardian protects and guides, but ultimately lets others make their own choices. The meeting was interrupted by an urgent message from Captain Jake Sullivan. Elena listened to his report about the interdimensional fields surrounding the alien ships, and a smile crossed her face. It's beginning, she said to the assembled aliens. The awakening we've been waiting for. What awakening? The Altarian elder asked. Instead of answering with words, Elena closed her eyes and concentrated. The air in the room began to shimmer, and suddenly the assembled delegates could see something that had been invisible before. The room was full of other people, translucent figures that looked like the delegates themselves, but slightly different. Some were younger, others older. Some wore different clothes or had different expressions on their faces. These are versions of yourselves from other realities, Elena explained. In some realities, this meeting never happened. In others, it ended in violence. In still others, it led to a golden age of cooperation between our species. The delegates stared in amazement at their other selves. The Centauri chief reached out tentatively toward one of the translucent figures and gasped as his hand passed through it. This is impossible, he whispered. No, Elena said. This is what becomes possible when you stop limiting yourselves to a single reality. Humans learned this ability long ago, but we've been waiting for the rest of the galaxy to be ready to learn it too. Amy Foster entered the room at that moment, followed by Ryan Clark and Ben Rogers. They had all been changed by their experience in the battle, and now served as Elena's advisors in dealing with the alien delegations. The other ships are starting to report strange phenomena, Amy said. Some of their crews are claiming they can see through walls or predict what their shipmates are going to say before they say it. The collective's hive ships are experiencing something even more unusual, Ryan added. They're starting to connect with versions of themselves from other realities. Their shared consciousness is expanding beyond their own universe. Ben, who had always been the most practical of the group, looked concerned. Ma'am, some of the military vessels are getting nervous. They're reporting that their weapons systems are behaving strangely, like they're connected to something they can't control. Elena nodded. It's happening faster than I expected, but this was always going to be the difficult part. Learning to access multiple realities is one thing. Learning to handle that power responsibly is something else entirely. She turned back to the alien delegates, who were still staring at the translucent figures of their other selves. This is why we revealed ourselves now, she explained. The galaxy is entering a new phase of existence. Your species are developing abilities that could be wonderful or terrible, depending on how they're used. You're going to need guides to help you through the transition. And you're volunteering to be those guides? Resonance Prime asked. We've been your guides all along, Elena replied. The only difference is that now you know about it. The Altarian. Elder stood up slowly, his ancient bones creaking with the effort. If what you're saying is true, then everything we thought we knew about the galaxy is wrong. Our entire understanding of physics, of history, of our place in the universe, isn't wrong, Elena said gently. Just incomplete. You've been seeing one layer of reality when there are actually infinite layers. Now you're ready to see more. Ugh. Meeting continued late into the night, but Jake knew from his position on the observation deck that the real changes were happening outside the conference room. All around the solar system, alien crews were discovering new abilities and experiencing things their science couldn't explain. The galaxy was waking up to a larger reality, and there was no going back. The age of humanity's secret guardianship was ending. The age of open cooperation across multiple dimensions was about to begin. But first, they all had to survive the transition. 6 months had passed since the revelation that changed everything. Captain Jake Sullivan walked through the corridors of New Harmony Station, a massive structure that humans and aliens had built together in Earth's orbit. The station served as a training center for beings who are learning to navigate multiple realities. The changes had not been easy for anyone. Some alien species had adapted quickly to their new abilities. The collective, with their shared consciousness, found it natural to connect with versions of themselves across different realities. Within weeks, they were communicating with parallel versions of their civilization and sharing knowledge that advanced their science by centuries. Other species struggled with the transition. The Zentari warriors, used to solving problems with strength and violence, had difficulty accepting that their greatest power now came from understanding and compassion. Many of their ships had experienced dangerous accidents when crew members tried to use interdimensional abilities while angry or afraid. Jake entered the main training hall, where Amy Foster was working with a group of young Altarians. They sat in a circle on the floor, their translucent skin glowing softly as they practiced seeing into parallel realities. Remember, Amy was saying, don't try to force it. The ability is already there inside you. You just need to let it wake up naturally. One of the Altarians, a female named Crystal Song, raised her hand. Teacher Amy, I can see the other realities, but they're all so different. In some of them, my people never left our home world. In others, we became conquerors like the Draconians. How do I know which reality is the real one? Amy smiled. They're all real, Crystal Song. That's the hardest thing to understand. Every choice that could be made creates a new reality where that choice was made. Your job isn't to find the real reality. It's to help guide all realities toward better outcomes. Jake nodded approvingly. Amy had become one of their best teachers, partly because she had a gift for explaining complex ideas in simple terms. He moved on to the next training room, where Ben Rogers was working with a more advanced group. This room contained beings from several different species, all of whom had progressed beyond basic reality perception. They were learning to actually influence events across multiple dimensions simultaneously. The key, Ben was explaining, is to remember that every reality is connected to every other reality. When you make a positive change in one dimension, it creates ripples that make positive changes more likely in all the others. A Zentari warrior named Sharp Claw spoke up. But what if we make mistakes? What if we try to help but make things worse instead? Then you learn from the mistake and do better next time, Ben replied. That's what humans did for thousands of years. We made plenty of mistakes along the way, but we kept trying to do better. In the station's central command center, Elena Martinez and Dr. Kevin Walsh were monitoring reports from across the galaxy. The news was mixed, but overall encouraging. The Altarian home world is reporting that their scientists have made contact with parallel versions of themselves, Kevin said, reading from his display. They're comparing research across multiple realities and making breakthroughs that would have taken them centuries to achieve on their own. What about the Centauri? Elena asked. Slower progress, but still moving forward. Their military leaders are starting to understand that their greatest strength comes from protecting others, rather than conquering them. Sharpclaw has become one of our most dedicated students. Elena smiled. And the collective? They're advancing the fastest of all the species. Their hive mind structure makes it easier for them to coordinate actions across multiple realities. They've already started establishing contact with versions of themselves in distant galaxies. The door to the command center opened, and Lisa Park entered with urgent news. She had been promoted again, and now served as the station's chief science officer. Ma'am, Lisa said, we're getting reports of something unusual happening in the old Draconian territory. Several worlds that were conquered by the Empire are reporting strange phenomena. Elena's expression grew serious. What kind of phenomena? Ships appearing out of nowhere, but they're not attacking anyone. They're delivering supplies and medical aid to planets that need help. The ships look Draconian, but they're behaving completely differently. Kevin looked up from his instruments. Are you saying the Draconians are coming back? Not exactly, Lisa replied. Remember, we didn't destroy the Draconian fleet. We shifted them to a parallel reality where they developed as peaceful explorers instead of conquerors. It looks like they found a way to reach back into our reality. Elena felt a mix of excitement and concern. Show me the reports. Lisa activated the main display, showing footage from several different worlds. The images were remarkable. Draconian ships, identical to the ones that had terrorized the galaxy for 1,000 years, were landing on planets and offering help to the inhabitants. But these Draconians were different. Instead of weapons and armor, they carried medical supplies and construction equipment. Instead of demanding surrender, they asked how they could help rebuild the worlds their alternate selves had destroyed. This is Admiral Koroth of the Draconian. Exploration Fleet, came a voice from one of the recordings. We know that our people from another reality caused great harm to your worlds. We cannot undo that damage, but we offer our assistance in healing what was broken. Elena stared at the screen in amazement. He looks exactly the same, but his entire personality has changed. It's not just his personality, Kevin observed. Look at his ship. The weapons have been replaced with research equipment and medical facilities. They've completely redesigned their technology for peaceful purposes. Jake Sullivan's voice came over the communication system. Elena, you need to get down to Docking Bay 7. We have visitors. When Elena arrived at the docking bay, she found Jake waiting with a small group of people she didn't recognize at first. Then she realized who they were, and her heart skipped a beat. Standing before her were Admiral Koroth and several other Draconians. But these were the peaceful versions from the parallel reality. They looked exactly like the conquerors who had threatened Earth 6 months ago, but their body language was completely different. Instead of arrogance and aggression, they showed humility and genuine concern. Ambassador Martinez, Admiral Koroth said, bowing respectfully. I am Admiral Koroth of the Draconian Exploration Fleet. I represent a version of my people who chose the path of knowledge and healing instead of conquest and destruction. How did you get here? Elena asked. Your people taught us something. Wonderful when you gave us the chance to be better, Koroth replied. You showed us that reality is not fixed, that we could choose to become something different. Once we learned to access multiple dimensions, we discovered that we could reach back to this reality and try to undo some of the harm our alternate selves had caused. One of the other Draconians stepped forward. I am Science Leader Vash. In our reality, we developed technology to heal worlds instead of destroying them. We have come to offer our help in repairing the damage the other version of our people caused. Elena felt tears forming in her eyes. You're trying to make up for crimes you didn't commit. We are all connected across the realities, Admiral, Koroth said gently. The choices made by one version of ourselves affect all versions. We cannot claim innocence when other versions of our people caused such suffering. Over the following weeks, the peaceful Draconians worked alongside other species to heal the wounds left by their aggressive alternate selves. They shared advanced medical technology with the Zentari, helped the Altarians restore damaged colonies, and provided the collective with new insights into multidimensional communication. But the most important change was in how the galaxy viewed itself. Jake stood once again on the observation deck, but this time he wasn't alone. Representatives from dozens of species stood with him, all of them learning to see beyond the boundaries of a single reality. It's beautiful, Crystal Song said, watching as ships from many different realities moved peacefully through space around Earth. I never imagined that existence could be so much larger than what we can see with our eyes. This is just the beginning, Amy Foster said, joining the group. Now that the galaxy understands how reality really works, we can start exploring possibilities that were never available before. Sharpclaw, the Zentari warrior, pointed to a distant star. In my training, I have seen realities where that star has planets full of life that we have never contacted. We could reach out to them, offer friendship instead of conquest. And I have seen realities where old enemies become friends, added a collective representative, where wars end in understanding instead of victory. Elena Martinez appeared on the observation deck, carrying news that would shape the galaxy's future. The Galactic Council has voted, she announced. They've agreed to establish the multi-dimensional alliance, with Earth serving as the coordination center. Every species that wants to participate will learn to access parallel realities and work together to guide all realities toward better outcomes. What about species that aren't ready for this knowledge? Jake asked. We'll do what humans have always done, Elena replied. We'll watch over them, protect them, and wait until they're ready to join us. But now,